In a world of iconic riffs, immortal solos, the highest notes, and the most guttural growls, the debate of the greats has raged on for decades. And we settle them here. This is the Great Metal Standoff. Thank you very much, voiceover guy. Ladies and gentlemen of the rock and roll, punk, prog, hardcore, thrash, and heavy metal community, my name is Jason Evans, and this is the Great Metal Standoff, the podcast that pits music's greatest albums in track-by-track combat. Now, this is in fact episode 6 of this podcast, which may or may not take you by surprise. This might perhaps be your first time checking this show out. You might be asking yourself, I've never heard of this Great Metal Standoff thingy before. How can there be 6 of these? To that, I answer everyone, it has been a very long time between episodes. In fact, it's been 7 months since I've last done one of these. During the making of those first 5 episodes, I must say I didn't quite necessarily have the resources or the position to make this podcast sustainable. Plus, on a personal level, didn't quite have my priorities right, and I needed to put more focuses elsewhere and put this podcast on the back burner. But now, as I speak to you right now, I, on a personal level and a professional level, have a clear direction I want to take, and I want you all to be a part of this ride. I've been recently given the duties of executive producer of SYN's punk and metal show Mosh Pit on SYN, which goes to air every Thursday night at 8 PM on SYN 90.7 FM and DAB Plus for digital radio users, and have comprised a team of passionate rockers who want to share it with anybody who will listen. And you podcast listeners, you loyal podcast listeners, will get to meet some of them today. Their names are Tat and Jacob, and they were the first 2 rockers to join me on what I like to call the Mosh Pit Resurrection. So today, on the first Great Metal Standoff podcast in 7 months, Tat and Jacob will join me in a battle of epic proportions. A ginormous pairing of super heavyweights of metal. Both with very starkly different styles, but they each have a claim to call themselves king of heavy metal. The first battle in 7 months on the Great Metal Standoff will be Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast of 1982 versus Black Sabbath's Master of Reality from 1971. It was their 3rd album of both the bands, and they are albums that have shaped the influences of the bands that we know and love today. Who will come out on top? But first, it's been a very long time since we've done one of these, so let me explain to you the rules of the Great Metal Standoff. Rule number 1. Every album battle will be contested in track-by-track format by our podcast panel. Rule number 2. Each individual panelist will select a winner of each pairing. The winning track receives a point to the individual's tally score. Rule number 3. Tracks on albums that go uncontested can receive a tally point if a panelist awards it a gold star. Now, podcast listeners, luckily, we don't need to use this rule today, as both tracks have 8 tracks each. Nothing goes uncontested. It's a battle to the bloody end, everybody. Anyway, moving on. Rule number 4. Once the battle is over, the album with the highest tally score will receive 1 grand point for that album. Rule number 5. If a panelist tally score results in a draw, both albums will receive a half grand point each. And finally, rule number 6, the album with the most grand points will be declared the winner. And with that, the arena is laid out. It is time to enter the Colosseum of Heavy Metal Battle by meeting the first 2 rockers that joined me on this Mosh Pit Resurrection. And let's see who they would pick between Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast and Black Sabbath's Master of the Reality. Master of the Reality. This is a very common theme on this podcast. My English is most definitely academic, professor level. I'm losing my thought. Let's just head over to the Colosseum, meet Tat and Jacob, and let the battle commence roll the audio. Ladies and gentlemen, the new Mosh Pit team, Tat and Jacob. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Yay! It's very good. I've been tasked with resurrecting Mosh Pit, and here you guys are helping me with my cause.
It's a great cause. Great. You're doing well too.
Am I?
Yeah.
At the time of recording, we've had 5 shows. Yeah, in fairness, it is expanding too, which is nice.
Exactly. It's making progress.
Yep.
Yes. What brought you here? Why'd you sign up?
To sin or...
Why'd you sign up? Why'd you want to join me in my cause of resurrecting Mosh Pit?
Just a love for, harder music, I guess. Anything rocking up. I don't know, it's not something... I don't know, you don't really get the chance to really play heavier music on other shows and outside of maybe Player One or the occasional thing here or there, but I felt like it'd be a great chance to not only learn some, but give some.
Have you been learning throughout the journey?
Yes, there's a lot of learning, and that's mostly thanks to Tat.
Yes, I'll provide you with all the juicy black metal.
Is that what you brought you here, Tat?
I mean...
To showcase your black metal love?
Yes.
Yes.
And my death and my doom and my thrash. And I love my punk. Absolutely love my punk.
What punk bands do you love?
Well, first off, Sex Pistols.
Oof.
Just the staple punk, and then don't even get me started on post-punk. I can go on for bloody days about post-punk.
I was at the Sydney Road Festival the other
Yeah.
day. At the time of recording, it was probably about 2 days ago. There were a lot of Idols t-shirts. I'd never heard of Idols, and then
Yeah.
you mentioned them, and I'm seeing t-shirts of them everywhere.
I'll wait till I pop in a few days with my Idol shirt to frustrate you.
Furthermore, Tat,
Yeah.
you had a show on Sin in 2019. It was called Lords of Chaos. What was all that about?
It was just pure metal and punk. So yeah, I played. I just kind of want to showcase a lot of like the black metal and the death metal, like more the underground metal stuff. But of course I did play things like Slay, and Mayhem. And then I had my punk. Then I had my indie rock, which I was very big on in my teenage years. I mean, I'm still at the end of my teenage years, but still, you know.
Right. Was that your gateway by any chance? Just the,
Indie
classic
rock?
indie rock and pop and the punk?
Yeah, for sure it was.
Were you a pop punk fan? Did you have that
No.
emo phase?
No, I never did.
No, you didn't.
My music taste has been the same since I've been 10 years old. I've not changed one bit.
Right. But that's not what we brought you in here today.
No.
I thought we need to resurrect this podcast. There's a lot of things I've needed to resurrect in the last number of months. This one, I thought we had to return this podcast with a very, very tough battle in the trenches, and that is Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast and Black Sabbath's Master of Reality.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts when I first pitched this to you?
Initially, my thought went to maybe the Maiden one wasn't as good as I remember, but going
Right.
back, I'm still quite confident that this is going to be a really close, really competitive little thing.
You think?
Yeah.
Well, Black Sabbath, for starters, amazing, and I mean, I think it's pretty obvious which side I'm on. But I've never been like a big Iron Maiden fan, and it was actually quite interesting to listen to the album objectively. And yeah, it was just kind of nice to see what people are like raving on about, I suppose. Yeah, it was nice to have a listen to something new.
Iron Maiden a band you just haven't gotten around to listening to, or is it
No,
just
I've had to listen. It's just not.
wasn't the cup of tea?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I know myself personally, I'm also quite the Sabbath fan. I was thinking it's going to be a Master of Reality victory. That was my prediction going in,
Yeah.
but I've been listening to both and I'm starting to think, yeah, this is going to be much more competitive than I thought.
There's a couple sleeper hits that you really forget about.
Yes,
Number
and
of the
also
Beast.
I'm with Tat. I've never really gone too deep into Iron Maiden, but so Number of the Beast is essentially the first time I've really sat down to listen to Iron Maiden.
See,
Damn, I had a whale of a time.
I'm the opposite. I've never been much of a Sabbath person, so
Right.
to come back in and really get back into Sabbath and sit there and go, ooh, actually, hold on, this is better than the stuff I've heard from later on.
Right. I came very close to, instead of it being Master of Reality, I would have put Paranoid
Ooh.
as the battle up against Iron Maiden. What do you think it would have happened if I put Paranoid instead of Master of Reality up against this album?
I think it probably would have been a little bit more one-sided towards Black Sabbath.
Really?
There's a couple. We'll get to them after, but there's a couple shorter tracks in Black Sabbath's Master of Reality that I feel like really
stand out
and
Yeah.
skewer it a little bit towards Maiden.
Okay.
Oh.
Righto.
Oh.
All right, righto. Let's get a little bit of background information done. Number of the Beast was released as the first album with Bruce Dickinson as
Yes.
vocals, and he was replacing Paul Di'Anno, correct?
Yes. This was, of course, released in the 22nd of March in 1982. It was their third album, as you said, replacing Paul with Bruce. And it was actually the last album with the drummer Clive Burr.
Right.
And this album has been mentioned by so many different musicians as inspiring them and, being what brought them into music. Metallica, a lot of members from that have outright said that this is some of their favourite music. Even Disturbed, and my favourite one to find while researching was Lady Gaga. Apparently is a huge fan of Number of the Beast and actually tried to be everything Maiden was but pop.
I cannot see that at all in her
It's
music.
really weird, but I kind of like the idea of it. It gives me a little bit more respect for her.
Kind of like when you
kinda
find out
scares
Post
me.
Malone's a metalhead too, and he did songs with Ozzy.
Oh, you forget about that, don't you?
Didn't he do stuff with like Jared Dines too?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe so.
Aren't they like mates? I'm pretty sure
Oh, it
they
wouldn't
are.
surprise me.
Yeah.
Yes. And in the other corner, we have Master of Reality, which came out in July of 1971. The band had only been in existence for, 2 years?
I reckon
Yeah.
about 2, yeah.
Because
Late 60s they started. Then they released the self-titled. And then
in 12
Paranoid.
hours.
Yeah. and then you got Paranoid, and now this album, which I feel like is a really it's a staple album, especially when someone's just starting to listen to metal. It's definitely like a gateway into some darker stuff, I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
this was a bit more of like an experimental album compared to the other stuff. But yeah,
How so?
just the little interludes within the album. It's actually quite a short album. It's only about 34 minutes. And I know the Number of the Beast is quite a short album too, isn't it?
Yeah, relatively compared to most of their other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know that the second shortest Black Sabbath album is about 38 minutes, so not that much of a difference.
What is that? What is that one? Do you know off the top?
I'm pretty sure it's Paranoid.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's dive deep. This is the Great Metal Standoff podcast, Number of the Beast and Master of Reality. And as you are new to the podcast, and hopefully we'll be seeing you around a lot more, so we'll introduce you to our resident timekeeper over here. They've got a blindfold on. I'm not quite sure if that's the timekeeper or if it's his wife. But the hood's over. Could you please ring the bell, timekeeper? Thank you very much. Okay, let's begin, everyone. And oh dear, we're probably about to lose our license here. Invaders versus Sweet Leaf. Now, we know what Sweet Leaf's about. Let's not dive into the lyrics, because we're going to get into a lot of trouble if we do. So, Tat, how good are you at the instrumental analysis and composition?
Okay, if we're talking about pedals, I couldn't, after all my research, I could not actually find the exact pedals that they use, particularly in Sweet Leaf, which is quite like a revolutionary song, out of like all of Black Sabbath's discog. However, I did find that Tony actually started using a white Fender Stratocaster, which, as you may know, Jimi Hendrix actually like created, which I thought was quite interesting because it's not very metal, a Stratocaster. But then he got a custom-made Gibson guitar with 24 frets. So I thought that was quite interesting. That's quite a few frets. And he also has this 12-string Epiphone Riviera, which is what he used throughout the entirety of the album. And also what I found was quite interesting is that, you know, like the really catchy riff, the dun 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 dun. Yeah, like Tony's like known for his riffs and his solos. And actually in the late 60s, before Black Sabbath's first album, he actually used to work in a factory and he got a few of his fingers chopped off in an accident, which is quite unfortunate. And as a result, he did not play any music for a while. And then he got some plastic fingers, he got like artificial fingers, which actually allowed him to play guitar once again. However, this kind of like bit him back because after a while it actually started to hurt his fingers. Therefore, for this album, for the Black Sabbath album, they actually had to tune it down by a step and a half, which kind of created like that more fuzzy kind of tone, I suppose, and a bit deeper and darker than Paranoid and their self-titled.
Yeah, no, Sweet Leaf, I didn't think it have that much over Invaders. Definitely in gore, but Invaders, for those who don't know, the lyrics and the story in the song are very much Vikings and violence based. The lyrics obviously being the events of a Viking invasion. With the chorus, you definitely see this as much as the chorus is so catchy and one of the most fun things to sing with a couple mates. It's just this song was one of their earliest recorded, and it was really interesting to see, I guess, because I think this was the first one. I could be slightly off on this, but it was one of the first ones that Bruce actually sung, and you can tell later on with the later songs actually recorded that they changed it up because there was quite a lot of issues between Martin Birch, the producer, and Dickinson with stories of furniture being thrown around and getting really violent within the recording studios. Although both of them say, it improved the music later on. And
Right.
I didn't realize that it had like an underlying like Viking theme. Like I love the Vikings. I think they're amazing. I didn't actually realize that. That's quite cool.
Yeah, it's they talk about the pillaging and the raiding and all sorts, and it's an interesting one because they definitely through Maiden and definitely this album, storytelling is really important for a lot of the songs, and you'll see that a little bit later on. But this one, I don't know if it's the strongest one on it, but it's definitely a great example of Dickinson. Starting off, it's a great one to bring him into because you've got to show off new vocals.
Ladies and gentlemen, our new singer. He sings like the opera. Is it very operatic singing? I don't know.
Not for Invaders.
Not for Invaders. Okay.
Invaders is a bit of a quicker one for him.
It is a fast-paced song.
Yeah, it's a very fast-paced one. The opening, I think, is just stunning. It's one of the strongest openings to an album I know of.
As opposed to the other side where it starts with Tony Iommi coughing.
Yeah,
I have a funny story about that. So, my best friend, right? So she was playing Sweet Leaf off the Bluetooth speaker. She was home alone. She just heard the coughing, and then she actually got scared, and she messaged me. She's like, "Tat, I thought someone was in my house, but Sweet Leaf was just playing." I'm like, of course. How typical of you to be scared of a song.
Oh lordy!
Need some strepsils, mate. What do you guys think about the intro? I think it's quite an interesting way to start a song.
It's different.
With a coughing fit.
I like the intro if it wasn't the opening to the album.
Really? Okay.
I feel like it would work halfway through as maybe coming out of one of the shorter interludes, but not for the start. And I feel like that's probably where it falls a little bit short.
Honestly, I think it's a bit more of like a hook, like really draws people in. Because it's quite an interesting way to start a song off, I suppose. You don't really hear it often, and you're like, oh, what's that? Oh, wait, Tony,
Right.
I mean, if I was playing this back then, though, I'd have to check and make sure that the actual physical version is all right, and I haven't bought a dodgy version.
What do you think? The coughing would just resemble the CD scratching or something?
Yeah, someone might have recorded over it.
But then it leads into probably one of the best riffs on the album, in my personal opinion.
I do agree with that.
And then it builds up halfway through. I can't... Tat, you might need to fact check me on this, but around halfway through, 2 minutes 30, I was saying, there's like a galloping bass sound. I'm not sure if that's quite correct, but it all very builds and builds and builds, and it's got this very fun thrill ride, no pun intended, but thrill ride feel to it. In my personal opinion, I'd take it over Invaders.
As much as I love Invaders, I have to agree Sweet Leaf is probably one of the stronger ones on Master of Reality.
Right.
And Invaders is probably one of the weaker songs.
You'd say that, really?
It's not I feel like if I was to play them in order, it'd probably be 6th or 7th. It's
Wow. Okay.
not my favourite on it.
I wouldn't go
It's
that
fun.
far.
It's fun, definitely, but
I must say I wouldn't go as far as 6th or 7th. But yeah, against Sweet Leaf, I'd take Sweet Leaf over
Without a
Invaders.
doubt,
What
yeah.
would be your final decision, Tat?
I don't know. What do you guys reckon I'd choose?
Well, it's up to you.
I feel like you're a Maiden fan.
Yeah, nah. Yeah, nah. Hesitated there.
Trying to
I got it.
subliminally.
You got me.
Trying to
God damn it, I'm
subliminally.
converting now.
Yep.
Yeah, nah, definitely Sabbath. Sabbath all the way.
Sabbath wins
So
this
it's
one.
1-0 across the board
Mm-hmm.
in favour of Master of Reality. That is very interesting. So it's a Master of Reality landslide to kick this off on the Great Metal Standoff. Let's move on to track 2. Children of the Damned versus After Forever.
I'm just going to jump in here and say that Children of the Damned is one of the strongest Maiden songs of all time, in my opinion.
Right.
I feel like this probably should have been first on the album, just because of how well
Start with a ballad.
Well, to show off the new vocalist, which was a
Ah.
big thing for them. This one, I think, definitely Dickinson shines here, and it works really well with the music, with the actual guitar being a little bit of a, as you said, a ballad, a softer song, and
It's still intensity in a percussion sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it changes a little bit further on as it speeds up, and that still works. It's a little awkward getting into the speed up,
Okay.
but Maiden struggles with that a little bit as it is. But it's just one of the most solid, I guess, songs for Dickinson, and I guess it shines for him. There's no other way to put it other than that.
Your retort, Tat?
I cannot completely recall the Iron Maiden song completely as I did. I mean,
Ooh.
honestly, okay, no offense, but the album kind of just blended into one big blur, in my opinion. But it might also just
Hot take.
Ow.
that might also just me being completely biased. But I did try my best to listen to it objectively, but that song didn't particularly stand out to me. What I found with After Forever, what really interests me is that the controversy that it caused. Because this is actually a Christian metal song, and as you guys may know, like, I suppose Satanism is a massive theme in metal, but there is Christian metal. That is a subgenre, as is, like, you know, pirate metal, Viking metal, all that stuff. You got your Christian metal. This song is about Jesus. It's about love and loving Jesus. So, with the Black Sabbath fan base, quite a few people actually disliked it, but maybe they did that to draw more Christian fans in. You may never know. I just thought it was very interesting, and it also it sounds kind of stoner rocky in my opinion. I personally believe that this album may have been the start of stoner metal and stoner rock.
No.
I would go as far as saying that, because it's just like the really beautiful, like, fuzzy tone, the deep tuning of the guitars, and yeah, that's simply why I think After Forever is a great song. The riff's bloody catchy too.
I found a Bill Ward tat for you. A Bill English. I know English, people. I found a Bill Ward quote, comma, tat.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to be? Are you interested in an After Forever quote by Bill Ward?
Sure, I am.
Yeah.
Well, this is what Bill Ward had to say about After Forever. What we were doing on the song was asking relevant questions about the validity of Christianity, in particular, Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
We were voicing our inner concerns about it all, asking everyone if they were prepared to accept what was being said without question this was right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what your point was making out?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and also, like, as I said, like, you know, the whole, like, Christian
Yeah.
kind of underlying theme in metal. Like, even if you look at bands like Slayer, like, the vocalist is a strict Catholic, which I thought was, you know, I just think is quite interesting, considering the lyrical themes. But yeah, this song, I think that's the biggest reason that it has, like, you know, it just stands out.
Yeah, I mean, I say that, but I also have to point out that just looking at my notes again, Children of the Damned was actually based on a movie. The track was inspired by a film from 1963 of the same name, and I can't get past, though, because the film itself is a horror movie about 6 children with like supernatural powers. But when you listen to the song and it is somewhat haunting. Even if it is a ballad, there is an eerie side to it that works super, super well with Dickinson. But this... Actually, what's interesting about this is this song was also influenced by Children of the Grave, which is on
Was it?
Master of Reality, as Bruce has said.
Bruce has also said, I found another source saying he also cited Children of the Sea, which is from the Heaven and Hell album of Black Sabbath too. So yeah,
Well, I mean,
there's a possibility between two.
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Maiden has said before, a lot of the members have said that they were hugely inspired by Sabbath, and well, I mean, I'm not the biggest Sabbath fan, but I can see it in certain songs.
So there you have it. Without Black Sabbath, we wouldn't have Children of the Damned, which is interesting, because I'd rather take Children of the Damned over to After Forever, even though After Forever is a very enjoyable song. Very spacey, love the bass, do 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 do, and you know the big heavy riffs during the chorus. What's happening there in those riffs, Tad?
What about the roof?
In After Forever, what is theoretically going on?
Guitar playing.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, it's just a really nice little progression of notes.
Yeah,
There's nothing really special about it. It just happens to be a super, super catchy riff.
with the warm and fuzzy feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm taking Children of the Damned.
I have to go Children of the Damned here.
Now that I know that, like, okay, I love my horror movies. I didn't quite know that was based off, like, I think lyrically, the Iron Maiden song wins it.
Lyrically, Children of the Damned wins. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that going to be your official choice?
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and just, I think lyrically, Maiden wins most of these.
Jacob, I think you're converting Tad if explaining lyrical content's turned her
If
around.
there's
Well
horror,
done.
if there's
this'll
a
be
horror
easy
movie theme, easy. I think that's really cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. You learn something new every day, boys.
You do.
Across the board, we've all gone for the same song, therefore it's 1-1 each. This next song to me is a no contest. The Prisoner versus Embryo. How do you pronounce that? Embryo.
I'm thinking it's Embryo, yeah.
This isn't a contest.
No, it's
I
not.
think it bloody is.
Embryo is only 27 seconds
Yeah,
long.
but it's such a technical piece.
It reminds me of one of the SpongeBob soundtrack pieces, the da 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 da. That was used in SpongeBob. How technical can it be?
I actually think it's quite. Personally, I think it is an outro to After Forever, and it's just like that little interlude piece, because they have two of those in the album. What is it, like 7 tracks, the album?
8 tracks.
8.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, you know, I thought it was like quite a nice piece. It's a bit of a switch up to the first and second track. Which is why I like it. It's quite relaxing. It's kind of, it kind of reminds me of folk metal, not gonna lie. It's just like...
It does sound folky.
Makes me want to, like, whip my sword out, you know?
Right.
And, like,
okay.
hunt for a bear in the forest. I think it's quite a beautiful 27-second piece.
I have to say, though, even if Embryo is a good song for you, The Prisoner is a great piece. The opening... little bit is straight from a British TV cult series.
Yes.
And it's one of my favourite little monologues before a song. But
The spoken intro is the actual intro for the TV series, which is spoken by the central character played by Patrick McGoohan. Here's the story that I wrote down in my notes. Iron Maiden's manager Rod Smallwood,
Yep.
was terrified of contacting Mr. McGoohan to gain permission to use the dialogue for the song.
He did sit down with a phone interview and eventually get the permission.
Yes.
But yeah, it was...
But he was that scared. He was so starstruck. That's great.
Which TV show was it? Do you know?
I couldn't find the actual name anywhere, unfortunately.
Because the first thing I think of is like an English like sitcom or something.
Actually, I think it was just called The Prisoner.
Oh, okay, cool.
But yeah, it's great to see that, you know, they're actually going out and getting these little bits of, I guess, cult media for it, and it works because the whole song, again, lyrically, it is about a prisoner wanting to escape and wanting to leave prison, and you know, obviously beating Embryo lyrically, but
Yeah, it just is. It just is, you know. But no,
it's got it there.
it's funny. The way I interpreted The Prisoner was it's like an escapee from prison and he's kind of on the run. He's running free. I'm a free man. Not exactly running free like the previous album before it, but he's running free. He's a free man, and that's it. Kind of like that on the run road movie soundtrack kind of feel.
I could see that. Speaking of that, I'm free. That chorus, I think, is probably the strongest chorus in this entire contest.
Okay, I would say there are stronger, but I really love the solo.
Oh, yes.
I think the solo on The Prisoner is one of the best.
Without a doubt.
On this one.
Yeah, I unfortunately, I can't see Embryo getting anywhere near this one.
But I did have an you did raise me an interesting question there, Tad. You perceived Embryo to be a outro to After Forever.
Yeah.
The way I've interpreted it, I just see it as an intro to Children of the Grave.
I mean,
I could see that.
I mean, then after Children of the Grave, you've got Orchid, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is like, maybe Embryo is an intro, and then you got Orchid, which is the outro. You may never know. It's quite the thing I really love about this album is the way that it's set up. Like, it's quite unconventional, I find, that it has, like, 2 interludes. Usually, if an album does have, like, an interluding piece, it's at the end of the album, or it's on a B-side, I find.
Right.
And, yeah, I just thought it was quite interesting. There's a bit of a story that goes throughout the album, which I can explain a bit later on. But, yeah, it's just...
I think I do agree with Jason, though. I do see Embryo maybe more as a lean into Children of the Grave, because Orchid comes just before Lord of this World, which has a bit more of a feel for what Orchid might be.
Yeah.
At the start, so I feel like it might bleed into that.
Yeah.
Overall, Wordy, what's getting the point?
Sabbath.
You're going to take Embryo?
Yep,
Okay.
for sure. I think
it
the
has to
piece
be
is
Maiden.
so technical.
Prisoner is such an amazing piece.
I thought it was a no contest immediately. And I love Sabbath. I thought Sabbath would be winning this, but I looked at that and I'm like, there is, in my humble opinion, there's no way.
It's a full
Embryo,
song versus an interlude.
I can see why you choose the Iron Maiden song, but it's just I'm definitely like biased. Like
yeah,
it's pretty obvious, but I can definitely see why. Like there's no lyrics in this piece, but I think that is what makes the piece stand out. That there's no lyrics and it's just a slap of guitar, you know.
Nice sounding. It's
Yeah.
nice sounding. I enjoy it. But if I want to listen to Embryo, I normally include this next song, Children of the Grave, which goes up against 22 Acacia Avenue.
All right, so I think the first thing to point out is 22 Acacia Avenue has an interesting theme. Do we know the theme?
If we go into too much detail, we might get into a bit of trouble.
That's why I'm asking.
Yes. But I did know it's like a second song in a series of songs that Iron Maiden have produced.
I couldn't tell you I think it might be from Charlotte of the Harlot.
Yes.
But yeah, it's. I feel like it fits quite well in with that, and it has quite a few separate parts to it. Actually, it's. I feel halfway through it completely changes sound for an instrumental, and then after the instrumental, it stays on a slightly different sound, almost slowing down and just accepting a certain beat. Whereas the start feels a little janky, and as much as I love the song, I feel like it does struggle with a bit of identity. Although the solo and the instrumentals are to die for.
To die for?
Yeah.
Sure about that?
Yeah, I'll put my life in.
I think Children of the Grave is probably one of the best songs on Master of Reality. And also, Ozzy actually said that he thinks it's the best song on the album. And the thing I really like about this song is the lyrics. It kind of just talks about how, like, we're all destroying the earth. It won't be there for the next generation of, like, rebellion and that. And yeah, I think that's also why it's quite interesting that there's the 2 interludes, like just the 2 instrumental pieces that accompany this track. And yeah, I think that the drumming is also very technical, because in the verse, they actually like primarily use toms, which is pretty interesting for Black Sabbath, I find. But yeah, I think that the drumming is underrated in this album. And I'm saying that from like a guitarist perspective because that's what I usually focus on, but I think the drumming definitely stands out on this track. And yeah, Ozzy said it's the best song in the album. I say it's the best song in the album. Well, one of the best.
Yeah, I'd go as far as to say it's probably in top 5 best Sabbath songs, full stop.
I have
Yeah.
to agree. As much as I do like 22 Acacia Avenue, Children of the Grave, it is Children of the Grave. But yeah, just to go off though, 22 Acacia Avenue wasn't originally a Maiden song. It was debuted under Adrian Smith's first band, Urchin. He then brought it over for Maiden, and they did their version of it. And you know, it's just interesting to think that song wasn't originally Maiden, even though it was the second in a series.
Was the original one recorded?
I'm not honestly 100%
Yeah.
sure.
Because I think it'd be quite interesting, like, to just compare the two, you know? I wonder what it would sound like, just like the original one. But, I mean, I suppose the Iron Maiden version would be better.
Yeah, I feel like the other one would have a bit more of an underground UK feel. So it could be a bit of a sleeper hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think with this one, Children of the Grave, I have to go with it.
Yeah, I'm definitely for Children of the Grave.
Yep, that's all three of us. To be honest, I reckon... I know you were talking about Invaders being one of the lowest on the album. I thought this one was.
I thought so at first, but when it changes halfway through, it becomes one of the stronger songs in the album, in my opinion.
Okay.
But it sits in a weird point where the first half is really weak, but the second half is really strong.
All right. Number of the Beast versus Orchid. Orchid or Orchard?
Orchid. I say
Orchid.
Orchid.
I say Orchid. Orchid feels like... It feels just like, you know, they happen to record themselves warming up in the studio.
I think this instrumental's better than Embroyo.
Oh, I
It
definitely
definitely
agree.
is, yeah.
I definitely agree with that.
Okay.
But at the same time, this is Number of the Beast. There's a reason they named the album after it.
I think this isn't a contest, in my opinion.
I think it's a big contest once again.
Explain.
Or you can try
You
and
seem
fight
to
this
not
one.
like
Explain.
instrumental pieces.
I do, but it's a minute and a half against one of the biggest Iron Maiden songs I've ever
I think
written.
it's more about quality over quantity.
Okay.
That's how I see it.
Explain your case.
Okay, so this track, right? What is it, like minute and a half? You know.
Yeah.
Considering Tony's disability and then how he had altered his guitar, like tuning it down, and then just playing this beautiful piece. It not only shows that he's a very skilled guitarist, not only with like just riffs and solos, but he's actually very diverse with all of his skills, because it's a beautifully written piece. It's very atmospheric, I find, and it kind of just makes you want to like run through the wild with like flowers, you know. I don't know. That's what I think.
Right.
It's a very relaxing piece, and even though
And Geezer's bass in the background gives it this haunting feel. I
yeah,
would
exactly.
say.
There's like a nice like little eerie kind of, you know, an eerie kind of feel at the back of it, you know. And even though it is not metal, like it definitely is not on a metal album, which is quite interesting. I would even go as far as saying this is probably my favorite track off the album.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think it is just such a beautiful, it's just so beautifully articulated, and I just think, like, from a guitarist perspective, I think this is wonderful.
I'll give you from a guitarist standpoint, it is a really nice little piece. But I also just can't escape that, you know, it is Number of the Beast. And, you know, just a bit of background on it. It was loosely inspired by the 1978 movie Omen 2, a nightmare that Steve Harris had.
After watching it.
Yes. Bits and pieces from the Bible.
Yes. The quote, it comes from Revelations 12:12 and Revelations 13:18.
Yep. And it was also, apparently according to Steve, slightly inspired by Burns' poem, Robert Burns' poem, Tam O'Shatner. And I think this is an interesting one because this is the one that probably brought Maiden the most controversy, because people were freaking out going, you know, this song is trying to pervert kids away from Christianity.
All because they heard the lyrics 666, the number of the beast. That was a terrible, terrible impression. but it was that lyric that caused hysteria, it seems. Hysteria is a bit of a strong word, but it caused rumblings.
Yeah. I find that hilarious, and I love the controversy behind it because it's it's just such a fun piece for it, and I don't know how else to put it other than it's just such a really strong piece, and yeah,
it's anthemic.
Yes, it you know, I'd probably say this is the Iron Maiden anthem song. If I was going to play any song to go, hey, listen to Iron Maiden for the first time, this would be it.
Yeah, we're on that side of the album where it's hit after hit in fairness on Number of the Beast.
Can I just say one thing about Orchid though? Because it is like, it is after Children of the Grave, which I kind of explained. It's kind of like a post-apocalyptic song. And then it's just kind of like, is this what happens when humans disappear? If there is like some sort of an apocalypse, Children of the Grave. And then the world just becomes like a beautiful place. That's the way I see it. It's kind of like a film.
I could say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that why you interpret the song as more of like an outro to Children of the
Yes,
Grave? Right, okay.
Definitely. And then Embryo would be like, I mean, I suppose like, because I said it was the outro to After Forever. So it's kind of like a story like, everyone's like all happy chappy. And then it gets a bit eerie with Embryo. And then Children of the Grave, everyone just suddenly drops dead. Maybe, you know, you never know. And then you've got Orchid, which is just like everything's just blooming again. What's happened? I feel like there's quite
similar
a
to the poppies
strong story.
of Flanders Field.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's just like I think it's a nice storyline. This album has a very nice kind of like story behind you know.
That's a very interesting way of
That's a
looking
good
at
way
it,
to put it,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
Orchid, yeah, it does make a bit of sense. It has that sense of peacefulness in the acoustic guitars, but then the bass kicks in and that's still got that ominous feel. I really do enjoy that instrumental. But Jacob, Number of the Beast.
I'm just going to try.
I respect the song a lot more now, Tad, so
off
thank you for opening me up.
Try and throw off a little bit more again. The opening scream by Dickinson.
Yes.
That is phenomenal. Like, there's not much way to say that's not great.
You try and do an impersonation of it, Jacob.
I don't have the
yeah, we'd
the
be
voice
insulting.
box.
We'd be insulting Bruce Dickinson if we tried to do that, wouldn't we?
Pretty much. But no, I think this one easily goes to Number of the Beast.
That came out of frustration from arguing with the producer because I had to replay the intro over and over and over again. So just out of frustration, he let out this scream, and that's what you hear at Number of the Beast at the very beginning.
That's what I love about it. There's that. It has, you know, it's
the
almost
build to it too.
Yeah, it's almost representative of the song and just how much you have to imagine they put into this because it is such a good piece.
Yeah.
So yeah, my number's going for Number of the Beast.
I'm gonna stick with, you know, good old Sabbath.
You are.
The boys.
Interesting.
But thank you for making me appreciate the instrumental a whole lot more now.
I'm
My
with you.
pleasure.
I must say, like I said, I'm now going to envision that every time I listen to it from now on, and I've got these massive ass speakers at home. So, and when I ramp the bass up, the entire room starts shaking.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we can. I can now enhance that experience.
Fun.
Next up, this one's an interesting contest, I must say. Run to the Hills versus Lord of this World.
Yes. So, Lord of this World, as I explained with Orchid, it's kind of like the calm after, like, you know, like the storm. And then Lord of this World is pretty much, it's so evil sounding, and it's just the opposite to After Forever. It's kind of got like that more, you know, like eerie, like, I suppose, like devilly sound compared to like the I Love Jesus sound on After Forever. And I think that's what makes it stand out. And it's quite a switch up from Orchid. And then the themes kind of circulate around Satanism or anything kind of sinister and cruel. So what do you guys think about this track?
Well, first things first, the riff is fantastic.
Yeah, the riff is bloody incredible.
Yeah. That's maybe one of my favourite riffs. I think Children of the Grave is probably song of the album. But Lord of this World has some very, very tasty riffs.
Another thing I found quite interesting is that the solo is actually repeated 2 times in the song, which is very, very unique. You don't usually hear guitar solos twice, you know. That's a pretty obvious thing because it kind of just messes up like just like the traditional structure of a track. Might drag it on. You have to be a very good guitar player to pull that off, and I feel like Tony does that very well.
I can't argue with that. Lord of this World would probably be one of my favourite Black Sabbath pieces.
Right. Okay.
It's just very groovy, and in my notes I had when just listening to them, I've put that it's almost jazzy, in that groove.
Yeah.
Whereabouts did you see jazzy?
Just the beat, like it gives me the same, I guess, foot tapping and the same heavy bass that you'd see in jazz, and that really caught me as, oh, this is the kind of sound I want to hear more from Sabbath.
I like the addition of cowbell.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yeah.
In the is that the chorus riff where it normally kicks in? It's like
yeah, I'm pretty sure,
so,
but
yeah.
like, also that's why I consider this album more experimental than the other albums. Yeah, just including like a large variety of instruments. The switch up with the guitar, having the Riviera played by Tony, and then just having like the interesting structure of the album. I think this is why Sabbath should get this track. I think it's
You're giving
bloody
the point
brilliant.
to Lord of this World.
Yeah, for sure.
We haven't discussed Run to the
I was
Hills
going to
yet.
say there's another song in here.
Yes.
Run to the Hills. I would say it's probably the most publicly recognizable Maiden song.
So if you were to make a new Iron Maiden fan, you would recommend Run to the Hills. No, not Run to the Hills.
I'd
Number of the
recommend
Beast.
Number of the Beast,
But
but
you
I
think-
wouldn't be surprised if they knew Run to the Hills when they heard it.
Very galloping sounding song.
Yes, and that actually works with the lyrics because the lyrics are based on Indians being hunted and killed, American Indians.
Yes.
And the song is based off two phrases that were used during those times, one being the only good Indians are tame, and the other one being the only good Indian is a dead Indian. Both of these obviously horrible, but they very much inspire it, and the song's told from the standpoint of this Native American who, you know, all of a sudden there are these British people coming over the hills, attacking, and you have to run to the hills to protect your people.
And then the second half of the song is told from the perspective of the British.
Yes, and I think lyrically,
That's really
that's
cool.
one of the coolest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, I've never heard of like anyone doing that thing before. I think that's really cool. And I can respect that a lot. But instrumentally, I feel like Lord of this World is the lord of the album.
Unfortunately, I have to give this to you. I do like Run to the Hills. It is a very good song, but Lord of this World,
Really?
It's a
yeah,
bop
it is
with
this
zero. Big
surprisingly
zero
groovy piece that just I would go to it before I'd go to Run to the Hills.
Interesting. Run to the Hills. Galloping like verse, I described it as, and the drums just in general reminded me of galloping horses. It's kind of like, you know how in the Metallica song 1, where in the main bridge section, I'll have to play hand bashing against table noises just for a second, but you know in 1 where it has that drum section, it's going... And that how it sounds like machine guns firing in the middle of a war. I feel like I get that feeling in a few of those Maiden songs like Run to the Hills.
Yeah, I think instrumentally storytelling wise, with the lyrics, I feel like they do do it a little stronger than Sabbath in this regard. But yeah, I can't throw this away from Lord of this World.
I completely agree with you. Like lyrically, Iron Maiden.
They
Instrumentally,
kill it.
Sabbath. Yeah. Jason? What's your opinion?
Run to the Hills.
Oh,
Seriously.
now I want to change.
But you were slowly turning me around. You were very... I thought it'd be very difficult for Lord of this World to make a case against Run to the Hills, but you were making a very good case, but I'm going to stick with Run to the Hills.
Yeah.
That brings this is just... We'll give you a score update here. And this is going to attribute to the interim final score. For myself, it is in favour of Number of the Beast 4-2. Tat, it's 5-1 in favour of Master of Reality. And Jacob, you are tied at 3 apiece with 2 songs remaining.
Oh, that's
Now, if you go
this
to
is
a draw,
interesting.
both albums get half a point.
interesting. Okay.
How do you feel hearing that you're 3 apiece?
Not too confident going into Gangland.
And Solitude.
Yeah, this might be an even vote for me across the board.
Right.
Um,
Gangland. it's a bit of a drop, I must admit. And Solitude's very, very, very different.
I love Solitude. I've got in my notes that it makes me think of an old 70s or 80s medieval fantasy film. And
sorry, what'd you say? A 1970s medieval film?
well, yeah, like one of your fantasy
Yeah,
medieval,
Okay.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
lower budget style films. And for some reason, that catches me. And the vocals in this, they don't have the same effect that they usually do. And that's probably my biggest gripe with Sabbath in total, is those vocals throw off a lot of songs for me. This one gets rid of it completely, and it's so good. And the little bits of flute and the guitar in the background, just going everywhere.
The flute's played by Tony Iommi too, and he played piano as well on this track.
I want to give this to Maiden, but
Really,
I can't say not
In-
to Solitude. This is such a good piece.
Interestingly enough, I have always got two interpretations from it. It's either the soundtrack for someone prancing around in a meadow field, or it's got this like really brooding, intense, solitary, confined undertone kind of vibe.
I could see that.
It's like it's either that or the other one, because you could use it for both and it would fit perfectly. Gangland, it's all right, but if I refer to my notes here, and when you read the story of, at the time the band had chose out of Gangland and a song called Total Eclipse to put on the album, they had chosen Gangland, a decision that the band retrospectively believe was the wrong choice.
Yeah, it really says something when the band themselves go, we probably shouldn't have done that.
It's not a bad song.
It's not a bad song at all.
But it is lumped in between Number of the Beast and Run to the Hills, and we've got Hallowed Be Thy Name up next, and it is the outlier, I would say.
Yeah.
What do you say to this, Tat?
In regards to Solitude, I think it's quite like a bleak and atmospheric song. It's quite sorrowful, and I feel like Ozzy's vocals, like he just evokes like so much emotion in this song. I personally just believe that Ozzy is one of the best vocalists. His voice is quite unique, and I think that's what kind of got me with Iron Maiden. Like I'm not like the biggest fan of the vocals. It kind of reminds me of like some power metal-y stuff. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and that's just my opinion. I respect it though. But yeah, like Solitude is quite like a depressing song. And this is just it's just pretty much implemented damn well within the album. And it's very creative considering like the instrumentals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm definitely I'm getting too excited. I'm definitely gonna have to go with Solitude.
I'm gonna have to
Creates
throw this
a
one to
Solitude.
Yeah.
All three of us are in agreement with Solitude there.
It's not that Ganglang's bad. It's just it's so generic sounding. If that makes any sense.
Generic sounding, to a certain extent, but I wouldn't put it past it. I'd still have a whale of a time listening to it.
As I said, not a bad song. It's just not.
Solitude makes me feel a bit more. There's a lot more to etch out of or scratch out of. I don't know what the correct terminology is. There's more surface to be scratched. I don't know.
That's a better way to put it. Yeah.
Yes. Final song of the album. This is also this one was very difficult for me to work out which one would turn out on top. It is Hallowed Be Thy Name versus Into the Void.
I think Into the Void is quite a powerful way to finish the album. And also just
Most
like
definitely.
Just the title, Into the Void, it's like continuing with like the story of the album. Right, so Apocalypse. Then it's all airy-fairy. After the apocalypse with Orchid, then Lord of this World. So something dramatic happens. Solitude just kind of brings it back down to that airy-fairy kind of scenario. And then Into the Void. Are we going into space? Are we now Star Trek? We may never know. I just think it contributes a lot to the storyline of the album. And that is what gets me the most with this entire album. And that is why it's one of the best albums to exist, in my opinion. Just the kind of story that follows along, and also just like the guitar. I won't even say anything, just the guitar,
I'm gonna throw across here and say that once again, Iron Maiden has absolutely killed it with their lyrical choice
and their storytelling.
Yes, because this song, actually goes over the story of a man who's been condemned, and how he feels, and how he is facing that imminent death, the anguish, and all that. And the final line is a prayer, and I find that to be one of the, I guess, best endings to the song, especially given some of the themes of death, like invaders being Vikings, prisoner, again a prisoner, Run to the Hills being that Native American Indian style thing. There is a theme of anguish and terror throughout the entire album, and I feel like this, the actual instrumental and the actual song, it's good. It's really, really good. Maybe not the strongest one on it, but it's one of the stronger ones. But the lyrical choice and the story behind it, I feel, wraps it up super, super well, and I dare say better than Black Sabbath gets wrapped up.
I beg to differ.
I'd argue "Hallowed Be Thy Name's the song of the album.
Yeah, if not, I think I'd only put Number of the Beast ahead of it, but...
Right. Okay.
I'm going to have to stick with Old Mate Aussie.
Interesting.
Old Mate Aussie.
Yeah.
Yes. He's very old now,
Yes,
isn't he?
he's very
getting
old.
up there.
At the time of recording, Ordinary Man came out. What was it? Last week? 2 weeks ago?
I have no bloody idea. Like, jeez.
Anyway, so Tat's taking Into the Void.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go with Hallowed Be Thy Name.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, this is where I get
What
very
is
torn.
thy answer, Jason?
What is thy answer? The problem is, Into the Void, I reckon that's in the top three. My top three on Master to Reality is Children of the Grave, Lord of the World, and Into the Void.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Maiden, it's the big hits, Number of the Beast, Hallowed Be Thy Name. Actually, I think Children of the Damned might actually be in the top three too.
Mm.
But let's be honest, they nailed that medieval atmosphere in Hallowed Be Thy Name.
Yes, they really did.
Nailed it. The prolonged vocal of running low into the main riff. Everything sounds like it's a march.
That riff on its own is so catchy.
Everything that sounds like a march to the gallows. Like when the music cuts off, I think, okay, that's the man being condemned as we speak. Obviously in a medieval setting. Yeah, well, who knows? It could be set in the French Revolution during the Terror. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, you have the guillotine or something like that. How do you reckon this man is being condemned? By...
Oh, I always assumed he was being hung.
Okay. Right. I'm thinking, if it's the gallows, does that mean the guillotine?
I'd imagine so.
Alright. Anyway, why are we diving deep into that? Why did I even think of that?
Because the song's that good at describing what it is.
It is, isn't it?
Mm. So, Jason, where do we sit?
Hallowed Be Thy Name. I love Into the Void, but I love Hallowed Be Thy Name.
You can't escape how amazing of a piece it is.
I'll go and cry in the corner of the studio.
Oh, don't do that.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to have to stick with Sabbath, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good piece. I definitely do like Into the Void. It's just up next to Hallowed Be Thy Name. It doesn't stand up. I think against any other song in the album, it would win. Mm-hmm. But seeing as this is the ending into such strong theme, I can't argue against it.
Yeah, I can appreciate the song lyrically.
Mm.
That's for sure.
So,
Jason, what's crack-a-lackin'?
We've reached the end of the battle.
Yep.
And here are our final scores. For Tat, our resident Lord of the Chaos, who you can hear Thursday nights at 8 p.m. on Mosh Pit on Sin, has decided that the winner of this battle will be Master of Reality with 6-1.
Ooh.
Myself, Number of the Beast wins 5-3. So that we're at 1 point apiece. But Jacob Scanlan,
Yes.
4 points to Number of the Beast, and 4 points to Master of Reality, resulting in a dead heat. Your indecision has resulted in a draw.
Oh, well, I was decisive with each one. It was just
fair.
I actually think that's a really good way to put it for
Is it?
both of these, because they're both really strong where they're really strong, but where these two, I feel, they fall really hard. Embryo and Orchid are really hard to get into without that, I guess, thought process of, what they might mean. And songs like Gangland are real falls for Maiden. And I feel like where these albums are really strong, they're really, really strong. And where they're weak, they really do have those holes.
My viewpoint is with Embryo and Orchid. They're fine. I enjoy them. But I feel like they're either an intro or an outro to something bigger. I don't really see them as a standalone excellent track. That's only my personal perspective.
I thought that it was quite interesting how it was set out. And I do listen to like a fair bit of like ambient kind of instrumental stuff. But it's usually in, like, the bridge of the song or, like, outroing a song, like you said, Jason. But I think it's definitely... they set it out well. I think it's just all a bit of a roller coaster, this album. A large mixture of just different sounds, different guitar tones, That's my input.
I think a good way to put it is they both make you feel things with different songs.
I feel stuff. Album is good.
Well, the storytelling on both is just amazing. And I don't really know what else to say other than, they're both stunning.
And with that, this is the second time on the Great Metal Standoff how a battle has resulted in a draw. Thank you guys for bringing about another draw.
Oh, you know what? You're welcome.
I think it's a bit more of a cupboard, not gonna lie.
Right?
Yeah. I still think Black Sabbath should win. But, Jason, it's up to you. So, I mean, I have nothing to say. Aussie, that's it.
All I can say is this is Maiden's album for everything. So,
the one thing I feel we can agree on is a lot of posers do wear Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath shirts, and particularly these albums. So that is one thing that they have in common.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favourite things at the moment is I have a few mates who pretend that they're into heavier metal and just metal in general, and they recently released an Eddie Pop pop vinyl.
Right.
And none of them knew who it was.
Oh my god.
And it was just amazing to sit there and just big smile on my face going,
What's your thoughts on people that wear Iron Maiden shirts?
That's a debate for another day. Ladies and gentlemen, the debate rages on. This is the brand new Mosh Pit team. Jacob and Tat, thanks for joining me on this debate.
A pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Ladies and gentlemen, riddle me this. I remember comprising rule number 5 of the Great Metal Standoff. Let's just quickly refer to rule number 5 of the Great Metal Standoff. If a panelist's tally score results in a draw, both albums will receive a half grand point each. Riddle me this, people. I designed rule number 5 to prevent draws from happening. Well, today's battle has proven that all ideas have its flaws, as Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast has drawn with Black Sabbath's Master of Reality, thanks to Jacob, our illustrious punk rock specialist panelist, being overwhelmed by the sheer awesomeness that is Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath. Anyway, thank you to Jacob and Tat for joining me in this discussion and laying out the reasons why they thought their choice was best. Unfortunately, we debated in such depth and were overwhelmed. All of us were overwhelmed by the sheer awesomeness. We were unable to settle the debate. If you were in the guest seat, which album would you have picked? Do you want to hear more discussions like this? Do you have a battle we should do in the future? Be sure to hit us up, facebook.com/Metal Standoff Pod. And also, if you want to check out more metal content here on Sin, Mosh Pit on Sin is the place to be. Thursday nights, 8 till 10 p.m. on Sin 90.7 FM, DAB+, or stream live from your preferred device at sin.org.au. And you get to hear all kinds of music that is heavy, comprised by Tat, Jacob, and the rest of the Mosh Pit team. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the resurrection, potentially, of the Great Metal Standoff. Hopefully we can get more done in the future. We've got plenty more of the Mosh Pit team to introduce to you in the future. If you have a battle, we'll always be happy to hear from it. Facebook.com/Metal Standoff Pod. But for right now, that brings us to the end. We'll see you soon, and until next time, metal up your ass!